mortgage and lien positions. Again, this is about real estate wholesaling, but there's a question that came in. It says if someone buys a tax Hey, this is Ola coming to you live from myEmpirePRO studios. On this episode, we're talking about mortgage and lien positions. Again, this is about real estate wholesaling, but there's a question that came in. It says if someone buys a tax deed for her house and the time has elapsed for redemption, is the new owner on the hook if the previous owner took a second mortgage? Okay, so let me go over that really quickly. Again, this is about real estate wholesaling. So if you're brand new to real estate wholesaling, it's basically the heart and the science of finding deeply discounted properties. We use mass media marketing for that. That's the one skill that we all have to learn. It's a very lucrative game. You can make anything from $1,000 to $82,000 on any single one deal. That's based on my personal experience. So I'm actually looking to break the $82,000 record. But honestly, that's not what it's about. It's about cash flow. How can you build this business of real estate wholesaling and have cash flow, multiple streams of income, 7, 10, 12 streams of income, and not have to depend on your livelihood on closing deals? Okay, so another thing that I cover here is called the smart wholesaling, which is you can skip 80% of the hustle in traditional wholesaling. You can make 6-figure or 7-figure income per year with or without closing deals, but you can also simultaneously, as a third, you can simultaneously 10x the number of deals you're doing. Okay, so if that's something of interest to you, I want you to hang around here with me. Again, let me go over that question really quickly. Okay, question says if someone buys a tax deed for a house. Okay, what's a tax deed? So a tax deed, it could be a tax lien, it could be a tax deed. It depends on what state you live in, right? And the way the laws work and the way it results in a foreclosure varies from state to state. I have another video on this channel on tax deeds, so you can simply Google my name, tax deed, all I talks Abitogun, and that other video will come up. But essentially, when people stop paying their taxes, right, it becomes a bill, and that bill turns out can become a tax lien or a tax deed. It depends on what state you live in, but essentially you're moving closer and closer in the direction of losing a property, right, or having this humongous bill being slapped against your property. That's what we call a lien. So a lien is basically a bill against your property. It's basically money that you owe against your property. So it can accrue interest, penalties, more headaches and stuff like that, right? So obviously you don't want that. You don't want tax deeds, you don't want tax liens. You want to basically pay your property taxes up to date. If you live in any kind of developed society, taxes are part of the deal, right? Basically guaranteed a few things in life: taxes, death, and like that, right, in that order. So even after death, some people are still paying taxes, right? So that's just what it is. That's the part of the deal of living this life, right, that we live as human beings, right, in a developed society. So for example, for me, I have best of both worlds. I understand I was raised in an underdeveloped country, Nigeria, in a third world country. My parents are from that third world country. I was raised there. I was born here. I've lived most of my life here in the United States. So I understand how both can work. There's if you live actually in a developed city, in an underdeveloped country, you still pay taxes because most people gravitate towards the big, large cities, right? But for the majority of the land mass in that country, they don't have to pay taxes because they're experiencing poverty. There's no development, there's no infrastructures, it's just uncivilized. The way of life is uncivilized. So taxes is kind of like a strange thing to a lot of those places. Same thing if you go down to South America, the same thing too. They have the same issues. Even if you go to certain parts of South Carolina, some place where you still have like dirt roads and things like that, you will find that there's less hassle about taxes and things like that. But if you live in a developed society, it's part of the deal. So if you own a property, right, you never really finish paying for the property in reality, because you have to pay property taxes. So when you don't pay that property taxes, it becomes this headache, right? So that's where this question is coming from. It's very important that you understand that when you get into real estate, that's a bill that you will continue to have, especially if you're buying the right type of property. Because if there's population coming into the town, if there's positive migration into the town, then that's where you want to be, because that means more people are paying rent, right? But if it's negative migration, people are leaving that town, you don't want to be buying property there, because if you do, it's just that many people that will be willing to rent from you, or it's basically the value of your property. That's how much value that you're going to add to your property. If more people are leaving, it's less value. If more people are coming in, it's more value. So I wanted to really share that with you so you can understand how the whole thing works out. But if more people are coming in, there's going to be more taxes, just part of the cost of having the luxury of more people coming in, which means you can rent out your property faster. So it's a good thing, but it can become a negative thing when you don't pay. So let's go through the question really quickly. The answer to the question is going to be very quick, but you need to understand the background of why we're talking taxes. So if someone buys a tax deed for a house, so basically the city that your property is will put a tax deed on a property, offer it for sale. It's the same thing that you deal with when you have a collection agency calling you on a Verizon or Sprint bill. It's essentially Verizon on Sprint have sold your bill to somebody else for pennies. So you owe them $100, they sold it for $20, right? But that person they sold the bill to is now calling you to collect $100. That's why they bought the bill, because they paid $20 for it. They're hoping that one day you'll pay them $100. And they'll get enough $100 from multiple people to compensate for that business model. Does that make sense? It's a business model. They pay $20, they make $100. Some bills they will never be able to collect, but when they collect and they do that in volume, they make really, really good money doing that. Okay, so the tax deed, kind of think of it as a tax bill that was sold or that's sellable for a fee. So when somebody buys a tax deed for a house, it depends on what state you're in. Sometimes it means they now own your property. Sometimes it means they own a certificate against your property, depending on your state. So you could find out, again, I have another video that basically spell out all the different states, right? So if someone buys a tax deed for a house, right, and time has elapsed for redemption, meaning they give you like a certain amount of time to pay your bills and redeem the tax deed, okay? But the time has elapsed, meaning you can't really buy it back any longer, right? Is the new owner, okay, so here's the question. Is the new owner on the hook if the previous owner took a second mortgage on that house? Okay, is the new owner on the hook? So the person that bought the tax deed, do they necessarily owe money on the second mortgage that a previous owner took? Well, let's look at it two ways, okay? Fundamentally speaking, just from common sense, that doesn't make sense that you owe money that you don't owe, right? However, you bought a tax deed, right, of a particular property, and there may be bills against the property, okay? So here's what I want to teach you. Here's what you need to learn today, okay? There are positions that liens takes on a property, okay? What is a lien? A lien is essentially money owed against the property, right? The tax lien, property taxes always take the superior position to any kind of mortgages. So if Wells Fargo's had lent money to a property, that's always a secondary position to the city taxes, okay? So if somebody took a tax deed over and they now own the property, I think a deed means they actually now own the property, right? No, they don't have to worry about any secondary mortgages, which includes any kind of mortgages from any kind of private company, okay? So by the previous owner, okay? The previous owner, their debt is their debt. Usually the mortgage company would have seen that there's a tax deed that just got acquired and they would have bought that tax deed. If the mortgage means that much to them, they would redeem the property and then take over the property. They will come to foreclosures and take over the property. That's what they would do, because it makes sense if the property is worth a lot more than the mortgage. But if the mortgage is not worth it, right? Let's say somebody owes $20,000, right? But the tax lien against the property is $70,000. They're not going to pay $70,000 to save $20,000. Just doesn't make sense, right? So that's probably why they let it go. But they're also letting go of the money, and they hope that they will continue to try to collect the bill from the owner, from the actual existing owner, the previous owner that took the loan. Okay, but they don't have any power over that property any longer, because again, it's a secondary lien. And all mortgages, they're always secondary to taxes. Okay, so that's what I understand. That's how it works. Taxes, city taxes, even IRS, things like that, always superior to at least city taxes. I'm not sure about the IRS, but the city taxes is always superior to all types of mortgages. So the answer to that question is that no, the new owner is not on the hook. They own the property for whatever they purchased the tax deed for, and they own that tax lien, and they're never on the hook, because those are all secondary. All right. So with that being said, that's tax deed stuff. Okay. What does that have to do with you? There's always a solution. This is what I would tell you. If you're dealing with a mortgage, if you're dealing with a motivated seller, you're dealing with people that are looking to acquire the property, they're interested. As long as you're dealing with people that are motivated, there's always a solution. Okay. But the problem is that a lot of people don't have a lot of people coming into the game. They don't have a lot of leads coming in, right? So they find themselves having to beg when the situation is not it's not really workable, right? But if you are all on the same page and there's a problem that you need to solve, meaning there are more leads of people that have problems, either they're looking to get rid of a property or they're looking for an investment property to buy, those are problems that you can solve. As long as you're in that position, then you have nothing to worry about. It's just about a matter of looking at what's available and working it out. And you don't have to know everything I just said. You can always ask your city when you have that case in front of you. The lady on the front desk in the city will always help you and tell you what you need to do. If there's a tax lien against the property, they will help you out. If it's redeemable, they will tell you. Sometimes they will actually bend the rule from what is actually written on paper, because the city is looking to get rid of cheap deals and stuff like that. So, but again, you're not gonna be able to enjoy that if you're at the mercies and you find yourself begging, you don't have options. And the only way to avoid that is to learn how to market and generate more leads than you can handle. Okay, if that's something you're interested in, then definitely go to Smart Real Estate Wholesaling.com and download this book for free PDF, also available in paper, audiobook, and Kindle. But if you go there right now, I'll give you this absolutely for free with it. It's my newest book. It's called Real Estate Money Secrets. Okay, hopefully you've been enlightened, educated. I'll see you on the next one, and peace.